Hey, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory is due to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who I learned this truth from and who do well. Peace and salutations to the 144,000, the rest of the elect. Unto you I say shalom. Coming to you back with another lesson through the Spirit. Now I'm entitled this one, Babylon the Great is done. And who or what is Babylon the Great, spoken about in the scriptures, will be no other than what we call today America, the United States of America, the land of the land of the free, the land of opportunity, the land where everybody can be equal through what the self-proclaimed white man Esau Edom has indoctrinated people to believe with the so-called American dream. That if you come over here and work your ass off, then you could be rich like all these, the top 1%. You could be a billionaire, you could be a millionaire. And maybe that was true, or maybe not even true, but it was somewhat more achievable back in the day because this economy wasn't as through, inflation wasn't as high, so you could get more bang for your dollar. But now that all these countries are doing away with the dollar, you got America versus Iran, which is leading to the Strait of Hormuz being closed for America and for these other countries, and they're not getting their oil as soon as they're used to. So that's leading to the price of not just the gas at the pump, but the price of all the goods, everyday goods, the basic necessities to go up. And that's going to lead to the collapse of this economy. It's going to lead to the collapse of this dollar if it doesn't stop. And Lord's will, it doesn't. Lord's will, it keeps up ramping more and more, because that's going to lead to the downfall of America, Babylon the Great, to the downfall of the dollar, the U.S. dollar, which ultimately Esau Edom is going to bring in that new digital system by the means of the CBDCs, where he's going to make the entire planet Earth take that RFID microchip, which is the MOTB, written about in Revelation chapter 13 and verse 16. And we're here. The MOTB is right around the corner and right after World War III, which is going to go nuclear during the Battle of Armageddon. This is Job chapter 14 and verse 5. Seeing his days are determined, the number of his months are with thee. Thou hast appointed his bounds that he could not pass. So ultimately, is Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai the one that is in control of what's going on. He's in control of who rules the planet Earth, the current kingdom. But what these people don't understand, that this, the self-proclaimed white man Esau Edom, his time of ruling upon the planet Earth is just about up. And that includes America, Babylon the Great, Mystery Babylon, the mother of all harlots, coming down and being destroyed by the way of thermonuclear fire, which is going to be caused by those ICBMs, the intercontinental ballistic missiles, when all these other countries, Russia, China, North Korea, and even its own allies, are eventually going to shoot missiles over here to America to utterly destroy this place, to destroy the 2/3 of the nation of Israel, those who chose to worship the image of the beast and take his mark, which is the RFID microchip, and ultimately have to suffer that second death. But as that's happening, you're going to have the great deliverance take place as well, of the 144,000, or the 1/3 that is going to be caused when a big fathership shows up, who everybody ignorantly calls UFO, and beams up the elect. That's what's going to take place here very soon. This is Psalms 49 and verse 11. Their inward thought is that their houses shall continue forever, and their dwelling places to all generations. They call their lands after their own names. And that's the mindset, not just of these elite banking families, the 1%, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, but even our own people. Our own people who weren't meant to get this truth, who weren't meant to repent, which consisted of 2/3 the wicked Israelites that comprise of the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. They weren't meant to get this truth. That's why they're under the vibration of Esau, Edom. They're under the vibration of the physical counterpart of the spiritual demon Satan, which is Esau, Edom, the self-proclaimed white man. That's why you have majority of our people still moving, especially here in America, Babylon the Great, moving like nothing's going to happen, like this kingdom is not on its way out. But really, that's because they're in the wrong spirit. They're under the spirit of Esau, Edom, thinking that this kingdom's going to continue on like this, this filth, GMO foods, polluted water, polluted air. Only a fool would want to stay in this corrupted ass kingdom. But that's why our people want to stay here so bad, because it allows them to do wickedness. It allows them to not hold themselves accountable to the standards of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai, to the standards of the law, statutes, commandments, to the standards of being an Israelite. Even though we can't keep the laws 100%, we try to the best of our ability, but you have the 2/3 of our people who just don't give a damn. They are in the spirit of do as thou wilt. And that's why our people are moving the way they are, because they don't believe that America is going to be destroyed. They don't believe America is on its way out. So they're really under the same vibration of Esau, Edom, under that vibration of moving around the world without a care, not caring to what's next, not caring to what the will of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai is. So that's why ultimately majority of our people are just going to have to be left here and be burned up, since they want to stay here so bad in what we call America, Babylon the Great. But it's evident that this place is on its way out. The economy's failing. All hell's breaking loose. The price of goods are constantly rising. So what is that going to lead to? That's going to lead to the decline of this economy. That's leading to the decline of this dollar, which is not going to be healed. It's only going to continue to collapse more and more till Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai says, okay, it's time. It's not going to be healed. This is Ecclesiastes 12 and verse 3. And it reads, this is Ecclesiastes 12 and 3. And it reads, in the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble and the strong men shall bow themselves, and the grinders cease, because there are few, and those that look out the windows be darkened. And that's going into how the optimism that these people had once, the American dream, and you work hard and you do this and you do that, eventually you can get like the billionaires, the Elon Musk, the Bill Gates, the Mark Zuckerberg, so on and so forth, that started from the bottom, but they worked their way up, and now look at them, they're balling, they're billionaires. They have Forbes top 500 companies. When it was all a farce, it was a farce to get people to buy into the system, to be invested in this system, and to just put all their blood, sweat, and tears into the system so they could have their mind just all up in Babylon the Great. And that's how majority of our people are, of the nation of Israel. They've been so accustomed, so indoctrined into believing that if you work hard, if you chase the bag, that, you know, you eventually gonna be like these elites, when it was all bullshit. And that's how a lot of people got duped, you know, into buying into the system, into getting the bag and working hard. But now people aren't looking at this economy as the job market. Here, nobody's hiring, everybody's firing. Everybody's jobs are getting taken either by AI, automation, letting you know that this place is done, is through, and it's not going to be healed. It's not going to come back to the post World War II era, you know, when everybody was scared of the U.S., when the U.S. was on top. And that's what these so-called white people were hoping in DJ Trump to bring back. You know, the golden glory of Babylon the Great. Oh, everybody's scared of America. But now, like it says in the scriptures, let the weak say I'm strong. That's what all these nations that once looked at Babylon with fear, nobody's looking at Babylon the Great, America, how they used to, you know, with fear, you know, shaking. Because now they see, the whole world is seeing that Babylon the Great is done. But only these dumbass Americans, these Babylonians, don't see that this place is through. That's why they haven't revolted. They haven't, you know, try to fight back, because they have that glimpse and hope. Oh man, maybe it's gonna bounce back, but it's not. Nobody's hiring, and everybody's firing. You know, people don't have that same optimism that they used to back in the day. You know, if I work hard, next year is gonna be my year. No, it's over. Verse 4. Ecclesiastes 12 and verse 4. And the doors shall be shut in the streets when the sound of the grinding is low, and he shall rise up at the voice of the bird, and all the daughters of music shall be brought low. That's what's happening. You have businesses closing down. You got all types of fast food restaurants closing down, mom and pop shops, retail stores, you know, those big old box stores, because people aren't going out like they used to. They don't have that disposable income that they used to have after each check, you know, after each month. And okay, you know, we got some disposable income. Let's go out with the fam and spend it here, spend it there. Let's go on vacation. Now, you know, people talking about they're taking their paid time off, their vacation, to catch up on some sleep from how burnt up they are from working in this system, you know, 70, 80 hours a week. People are fed up with this system, but the only reason why they're still going to work, why they're still rushing to get to work, paying taxes, is because ultimately they got to pay those bills. They got to buy groceries. They got to eat. But when Esau Edom takes all these things away, and he's doing it already by this whole U.S. versus Iran situation, gas is going to go up. It's going to get to the point where people aren't going to pay for gas. They're going to be like, hell no, $20 a gallon, $40 a gallon, $50, $100 a gallon. That's when people are going to be like, hell no, to hell with this shit. Here, gas is going up, but people's salaries and hourly rate, that's not going up, because this system is being demolished. It's a controlled demolition, but these people don't see that. And that's why Yahweh Bashem Yahushua is just going to bring this place down when people least expect them. Like it says, 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, when they shall say peace and safety. You know, that's what they were talking about. You know, Trump, we talked with Iran. We're going to have a ceasefire, you know, for 5 days. But Iran said, hell no, we're not talking about no peace, because Iran, they want the smoke. They want the ground troops to go into Iran so, you know, they can get slaughtered over there. This is Jeremiah 51 and verse 7. Babylon had been a golden cup in the Lord's hand that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine. Therefore, the nations are mad. And that's how America, Babylon the Great, has gotten rich throughout its history, by going to all these different nations, taking over, talking about, okay, we'll offer you protection if you give us of your resources, if you share your resources with us. And if they don't, then they willingly, forcefully take them. They taken by force, by using this military, establishing military bases throughout the world, and through its democracy, through its U.S. dollar that's backed up by nothing. But now all these nations are like, hell no, all the U.S. does is take, and it doesn't give. And if it does give something, it gives missiles, it gives drone attacks. Verse 8, Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. How for her take balm for her pain, if so she may be healed. And this is what the future of America, Babylon the Great, has in store. It's going to be thermonuclear destruction. But we know that the MOTB, which is the RFID microchip, has to be implemented first. But these major prophecies are right around the corner. Verse 9, we would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her and let us go every one into his own country. For her judgment reacheth unto heaven and is lifted up even to the sky. So America doesn't have long. America is on its way out. Babylon the Great. And what these people don't understand, that we're right here. That's why people can feel that eerie vibe, like something is in the air, just like what would have happened 6 years ago during the 2020 ordeal, when everything got to shut down because of the so-called C-19, and that's what's about to happen. Another shutdown, Lord's will, this thing shuts down again, where the government is gonna enforce energy restrictions, and you can only use a certain amount of electricity. You can't drive your car no more. This is what's coming. That's why they have the ICE agents at all these airports, because they know once all hell breaks loose, there's going to have to be some form of control. And very soon you're going to start seeing these troops and soldiers in your streets, tanks. But these people think that it's not going to happen because they've been so accustomed to being comfortable, chilling, being able to have 5 meals a day. But that's all about to be done away with very soon. This is 2nd Ezra 16 and verse 21. And it reads, behold, victuals shall be so good cheap upon earth, that they shall think themselves to be in good case, and even then shall evils grow upon earth, sword, famine, and great confusion. So right now, why these people haven't rioted yet, why they haven't really crashed out like that, even though you have the E to the Steam files release, and all the abominations and just effed up behavior that's in those files, yet these Americans, these Babylonians, they don't care with all the information that's on those files. But that's because they have food, they have water, they have Netflix, they have AC. So as long as they're able to get these things, even though prices are going up, and they're chilling. They're not worried about Jacob's trouble. They're not worried about the collapse of the U.S. dollar. They're not worried about World War III. But that's the spirit that Yahweh Bashim Yahushua wants the majority of these people to be in, to be comfortable. So when he finally lets those four winds let loose, it's going to be like, damn, for these people. Because they weren't expecting it. Just like what would have happened in 2020. It's going to be the same thing, but worse. Because this thing is already hanging on by a thread. People are on edge. People are ready to crash out. Verse 22, for many of them that dwell upon earth shall perish of famine, and the other that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy. So people are either going to get put to death by the sword, or they're going to starve to death. This is what's coming to America, Babylon the Great. Verse 22 again. For many of them that dwell upon earth shall perish of famine, and the other that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy. So It don't matter if these people think that, oh, I've been building this bunker, I've been preparing for the collapse of this economy. Okay, how long is that going to last you? How do you even know if you're going to be near all your supplies? Are you going to be near your bunker? That's what these people don't. They're not calculating where they're going to be, what they're going to be doing. Ultimately, the will of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai is to destroy the wicked, the 2/3 of our people, and these heathens, and to deliver the elect. But all these plagues, it says sword, famine, and great confusion, this is all reserved for the 2/3 of our people. And these heathens who are settled on their leads, that think nothing's ever going to happen. You know, they think that, oh, in World War III, that's been in talk for years and nothing has happened, because they're not paying attention to prophecy. But those who are measuring the times diligently, like it says in 2nd Ezra chapter 9, they know that this place is on its way out. And it's not going to be healed. America's not going to be healed. And this current empire being ran by the self-proclaimed white man, Esau, Edom, it's on its way out. You know, and the only ones who are rejoicing at that are the remnant, the elect, the 144,000, and the large multitude. While the rest of these people, they're mourning and crying because, you know, America's being destroyed or America's collapsing. But that's a beautiful thing, because that signals that the deliverance of the hopeful elect is not of the elect, but also the destruction of the wicked and the downfall of Esau, Edom. You know, but that's pretty much the point. I pray that this was edifying unto the elect. I want to give all praises, honor, and glory that's due to Yahweh, Ba'Shem Yahushai, Ba'Shem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who all learned this truth from and will do well. Peace and salutation.